Well, the basic premise of this book, The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews, is there's a young man hit his bottom. He felt that he's given it his all, and the way he figured the world was supposed to be wasn't happening. It got to the point where he gets into a situation where he actually starts seeing things differently. And through these 7 decisions, these 7 people, they give him different perspectives and perceptions on life.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, things he can learn and put into practice.
Right.
The common concept with principles are truth, and they're always working. They're always on, whether we know it or not, whether we know the principle or not. It's affecting you. I mean, it's the same. I think he uses the example of gravity.
Right.
Gravity was affecting us long before, Newton dropped the apple or whatever happened with that. But so once we learn them, why not utilize them, in our lives to make it a little bit smoother. But I think I want to read this just to kind of start out because it kind of describes where he's gotten to in this. But it's in the second chapter somewhere after it describes all the disaster he's having to live through. David pulled onto the shoulder. Bowing his head, he clasped his hands together. "Oh God," he said aloud, "Oh God." He stopped and was silent for almost a minute. "Oh God," he began again. After another minute, he put the Colt into gear and moved back onto the highway. "I can't even pray," he thought. So, Willie Nelson has an old song that's a real good one if you ever get a chance, called "Too Sick to Pray." And we may try to get it in the video somehow. But anyway, and that's part of it. We just get so wrapped up in everything and our environment in a lot of ways. If we let it control us, it makes us sick, and we get spiritually so sick that we don't even think to reach out, to another person, much less a higher power. I mean, and a lot of times we don't want the higher power thing. We don't want that to be the freaking answer.
Right.
So,
well, what that does is it takes the control out of your hands.
Yeah.
Right. Especially right here, especially when you go into the first decision, right?
Right.
Talking about the buck stops here, that you got to stop blaming all the circumstances, all the minutia, all the things out there in the world that we go, well, if my wife would have been better, if my job would have been better, if traffic would have been better, if my diet would have been better, whatever it would have been, we always blame out here. When the truth is the first, decision for success is my fault.
Right.
I am right where I am because of me. Now what?
Yeah.
Right. That's where the God thing comes into play, because it wasn't that long ago that I probably was an atheist for a while. Maybe moved into agnostic once in a while. Whatever served me the most at that moment, that's what I was.
Wherever the most loopholes.
That's where I was. Right.
Right.
But it wasn't until that moment when I had my moment, just like David Ponder had his moment, right, that we put our hands up and say, all right, what do you got?
Right.
And as much as you want to deny it, you're talking to a power that's greater than yourself.
Yeah.
So the buck stops here in that first chapter there. It's actually
chapter 3.
Chapter 3 is the first success, that you are right where you are.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Where it always begins is that honesty that it's all mine.
Yeah. Well, I'm here. Where are you? What time is it? I'm here and it's now.
Right.
That's what time it always is. I mean, even if you think about it, I think it covers it a little bit later in here somewhere. It talks about living in the past, and you'd be surprised how much time we spend living in the past. It talks about every moment, even the present, is becoming the past.
Right.
Because our stumbling through, joking around at the beginning, that's already in the past. we can move through that and keep going.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I could go back to this part here where it's talking about how we think, because I do believe we're supposed to do a joke.
Yeah.
Should I do the joke?
I hated that joke.
You hated that joke?
Yeah, but go ahead. Everybody knows it.
Nobody knows that joke.
All right, go for
I
it.
think I made that one up.
I think there is a category or a what do you call it? A genre in the videos called dad jokes or old man jokes.
Okay. But that's
You gotta laugh like it's funny after you say it.
This is funny here. It's talking about the way we think is what dictates our actions.
Right.
So the joke goes is the Little Rascals and the teacher, it's a government class, and the teacher's going through words utilized in government. And so she is asking the students to utilize one of the words and put it in a sentence. So Alfalfa raises his hand first and he says, legislative. He says the legislative branch is the branch that creates laws. And the teacher says, great job, Alfalfa. And then Buckwheat is raising his hand. The teacher calls on him. She's like, well, what do you have, Buckwheat? And he says, dictate. She says, well, how are you going to use that in a sentence? And he says, hey, Darla, how was my dictates last night? So that's how it is.
That's good. You're on your own on that one.
That's what I think about whenever I hear the word dictate.
All right. A little insight to what we're dealing with here.
Yes. All right. We got what's your favorite decision?
His main point here, the ultimate outcome of anyone's life is a matter of personal choice. So essentially, Truman, he gets down to the truth, which people don't like. And the fact of the matter is, wherever I am right here and now, like we were talking about a while ago, first of all, my best thinking, we like to say, is what got me here. Because every choice I made, I either thought it was the best choice at the time, or else I thought I could get away with it, maybe. So, but the fact of the matter, all those little choices, the shortcuts or the deciding not to work or study or screw off or whatever, that's what got me here.
Right.
The lack of pursuit of anything spiritual or anything that aligns with anything bigger than me. The thought of, we say we don't think we were gods, or I don't think I was a god, but I sure did act like I thought I was. My behavior showed that I thought I was, because everything I did, was shockingly about me and what's in it for me, which, we all have that tendency to some extent.
Right.
But to the point we can let that go and dive ourselves, that's when we start making a little progress. And it gets to pain. I think there's a lot of podcasts out there and talks about pain. And I think there's a reason for it. We hear it a lot. We hear it a lot, but are we really listening? Because if we're super comfortable, we're not in any pain, we're not really growing.
Right. Well, it's interesting that you bring up the whole thing. We're trying to act like we're gods, and the truth is we are.
Right.
Right. It says so in multiple books that we're supposed to be the king of our dominion. Right. That we are all gods. Mm-hmm. Right. The problem that we have is yes, innately, I'm a creator. Mm-hmm. I just don't know how to create.
Right.
And why don't I know how to create? Because innately I'm supposed to, right? It's because I'm cut off from the sunshine of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. That's where the guidance is, right? So when you find out that a king, a god, a leader, right? All of those people, it's not about what's in it for me. It's about how much more can I give of myself. Mm-hmm. Now, once you grab a hold of that, now you start going like with what Solomon talks about, mm-hmm. right? And surrounding ourselves with individuals that have our best interest at hand as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because even the greatest leaders surround themselves with more intelligent people,
Right.
right? It's not meant for us to be alone, right?
I agree.
So I think that's the part is yeah, we are all playing God, but are we doing it right?
Right. I can see that.
Yeah, you
I
know,
can see why. I can see that thought.
yeah. When we start doing it right, things start lining up,
Yeah.
right? But it's not
So
what we
starts
think it
working.
is.
Well, when you say when we start doing it right, when you add that little word "right,"
Mm-hmm.
that means not the way I want to do it.
Right. There you go. It's
That
not
means
it's not my
that
way.
means the way somebody else suggested I do it,
There
or
you
that
go.
means, you know,
Mhm.
it means the opposite of what I want to do, basically.
Absolutely. And that is one part of this book that I believe in all 7 decisions of success, they all had that one key component of who you surround yourself with,
Right.
who you align yourself with, who do you listen to, who are your associates, right?
Yes.
That's what I think that's a key factor in all 7 decisions. And I find it true for me personally. I'm a finance major. I know some numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but by no means am I an expert. So
Right.
I should probably have somebody that knows a little bit more about numbers than I do
Right.
in my life.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like you said, my best way of thinking got me here.
Right.
So probably surround yourself with some good decision makers.
So the first decision is the buck stops here,
Mm-hmm.
Truman. So, accepting responsibility and no, acceptance is not the fucking answer. For all of you people out there who say acceptance is not the answer, sorry. It could be an answer, but it's really just the beginning, because once we settle down and the dust settles and we realize where we are and we're here and we're now, and I'm the one that got me here, and guess what? Only with help can I be able to get out of this stuff.
Right.
So I got to start doing something different. So that makes acceptance the beginning. So once we accept it and here we are, okay, now what do we do? And that's what a lot of these principles that Andy's putting forth here, these decisions, which are basically principles.
Right. And I agree with you. I think a lot of people get stuck on that acceptance is the answer, period.
Right.
That's not it. It's acceptance is the answer, comma.
Yeah.
Right? Now what's next?
Right. Well, it's too easy. It's lazy is what
Right.
it is. Acceptance is the answer. Now I don't have to do anything else.
Absolutely.
Instead of like, well, this is where we are. I need to change me in order to help or be of service in this situation.
Yep. Which that goes into my second favorite part of the book, which is I'm a person of action.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now that I've accepted it, I am where I am because of me. Now what's next?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person of action. And this right here is where I've failed quite a bit in life. Procrastination, pontification, pomp, all that stuff that we're talking about.
Right.
That holds me back from doing the right action.
Right.
And laziness, there's a lot of them in there. Excuses.
Mm-hmm.
But when I actually just do it, right, shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
And the amazing freedom that you get because you're so busy doing what you're supposed to be doing, the world changes around you.
Mm-hmm.
The way you see things, the way you hear things, the way you feel things, they just start changing.
Well, does the world change, or is it you changing?
Well, seeing how I'm a god,
Yeah,
it's probably the world.
probably the world. There you
Probably.
go. Well,
Even though I know the truth is, it's just changing my own eyes.
I understand.
Right?
Yeah. Some meetings they say keep coming back.
Keep coming back. It works if you work it.
There's a couple things in the Solomon deal that I liked. One of the points he makes, he's trying to talk to David, and David's like we all do, instead of listening, he's thinking what he wants to say in return. And he says, David, you have a condition common to most people. You hear, but you do not listen. I know that's real simple, and I'm not by far the first person to ever say that or point that out that I've read it. But you'd be surprised what a big difference it makes to really hear somebody, to listen to them. We don't realize that, one of the things that he's going to make a big deal out of is change, and the reason I kind of bring that up is because everybody says, I don't like change, I hate change, or whatever. Well, the fact of the matter, he points out here, and it's true in humans, it says, real quick, the past will never change, but you can change the future by changing your actions today. It really is a very simple process. Here's the one point I want to make. We as humans are always in a process of change. Therefore, we might as well guide the direction in which we change. So we're always changing. So to be somebody who goes, oh, I just don't like change. Well, that's stupid, because as a human being, we're changing all the time. I mean, our cells in our body even, in 7 years, every cell's a different cell. They change out so in 7 years, I'm a totally different person.
Right.
So it changes. You better get your head around it.
Right.
It's a
absolutely.
constant. It's a constant.
Well, it reminds me, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine 2 days ago about that same conversation about change. And, they're riddled with procrastination, mediocrity, I'll just, it's not for me today. I don't want to change. I'm happy where I'm at, right? And the truth about that change, what you're talking about, is you're either moving forward, bettering yourself, or you're going backwards. That's it. Yeah. That's the only two ways you're going, right?
Right.
So when I shared with them, hey, what do you think about allowing some other individuals to come into your life and say, hey, I'm going to organize this for you so you can start living this way. Hey, I'm going to work on the diet for you, and so you can start eating better, and a physical activity that's going to help you with that. And then we're going to start working on reading some books and things like that. So all these little changes within the life that are all supposed to catapult you forward, right? And I asked the person, what are your thoughts? And he just stared at me. Just like dude, some dialogue here.
Yeah.
A little, I share, you share, right? What
Give
do you
me
got?
a clue.
And he just looked at me and said, I have no idea what you're talking about. Why would I want to do any of that?
Right.
I'm fine right where I'm at, right? Goes to the story about the guy in the garbage can.
Yeah.
Dad comes a knocking, hey, how you doing? I'm fine.
Yeah. I got this little carpet my friends gave me.
That's right. I got some food once in a while. Yeah. The street that I panhandle is right there. Right. The liquor store is right there.
Right. The dumper truck only comes a couple times a week. I just got to keep track of that.
I poke my head up just enough. I got oceanfront view.
There you go.
I'm just fine. And so it's difficult. And I find myself in that same spot. And the thing is that whole change concept. I was wondering why, because it wasn't the first conversation I've had. I've had multiple of these conversations about change, about doing things right. And I keep getting the same response, that blank stare, right? So I'm like, okay. So I meditated on it. I was really quiet. I shut my fucking mouth and listened. And my higher power said, dude, I'm talking to you. I'm like, what? No, we were talking to all those people out there. You ain't talking to me.
Right.
Surely, right?
No.
And so that's where I was at. I was like, you know what? And that's why I was telling little Chrissy yesterday that I got to do it.
Right.
Because this whole time, by me sharing all this stuff, I was talking to me.
Right. Yeah.
So much for change.
Well, a lot of times, I'm sure it's true with a lot of people if they realize it, but with me a lot, I say some of the best shit whenever I'm talking to
Mhm.
somebody. Then I'll turn around and get in the car and go, fuck, I'm the one who needed to hear that.
Right, right.
I was talking to me. But the other point I think Solomon makes, he gets to the point of talking about wisdom, and that's his thing, is seek wisdom. But he talks about mentors, uh, people in the, asking for help and mentors and uh, stuff like that. But he says here, he uses the example of his kids. He said, you've got a daughter, do you watch who she plays with? I mean, is that important who her friends are? Of course, that's important, because who we hang out with determines who we're going to be, right? Well, Solomon's question is, yeah, that's right. We think about that with our kids, but at what age does that stop being true?
Right.
So when I'm 50, 60 years old, who do I want to hang out with?
Right.
Because that's going to be important. That determines the way I think, what I'm thinking about, talking about. I mean, there's some people that, you're around them for a few minutes and you just don't want to get any of that shit on you. You don't need to be hanging out with those people.
Right.
I don't need to be hanging out with people that are, talking about being old or not, not doing shit.
Right.
I'm not an outdoors person. That's great if you're not, but you got to move that body or, it ain't going to work. But,
Right.
well,
in that part there that you're talking about, my favorite word there, because I understand wisdom. It's taking knowledge, putting it into action. So now I have wisdom, right? Because I've experienced that knowledge. So now I've obtained wisdom. But Solomon didn't say gather wisdom, obtain wisdom, get wisdom. He said a very aggressive word. He said seek.
Seek.
That's an action moving forward. I'm going to seek the wisdom. Right?
We hear that word somewhere else, don't we?
But ask, seek, knock. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well,
seeking is a big deal.
That's in Matthew.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you remember that.
Yeah. Well, you guys on the spectrum over there.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not in tune with that.
I understand.
I like those. I love those people.
Yeah, of course.
But
I love all people. I'm all inclusive. All right. So we talked about Solomon, Chamberlain. What else you got?
We didn't talk much about Chamberlain.
Well, that's the man of action.
Yeah, he was pretty good. I think most of his is in the good stuff in that chapter. I mean, it was all good. It was an interesting story. He did point out a few things, but I think in the end where he reads the third decision or when he gets the list of it, I'm a person of action. He hits a lot of high points, but I like the way he said that, I'm not going to die with a bullet in my back.
Right.
In other words, I'm moving forward.
Got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. So, I'm reading Arnold's book right now too, and started it and got a couple chapters in. And that's what his big thing so far is vision. Where am I going? And then starting to work on it. I'm not ready to talk a whole lot about it, but anyway, starting having a clear vision or getting a clear vision or getting it clearer, but then getting started on the work.
Right.
And I think a lot of times as you work, if we have a vision, that may not be where we end up. But it gives us something to shoot for, and we may learn along the way, I need it to be over here instead of over here. So, right. But you never learn if you don't start doing it. So that was his thing. It's, the usual stuff, laziness and all that. He makes a good one here. I got this one marked. Many people say they're waiting for God, but I understand in most cases God is waiting for me. So, a lot of those little signs we get, a lot of that little pain, that little stab in the side, that little check didn't come through or whatever, that could, God making you a little bit uncomfortable.
Right.
He's waiting for you.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. I had a person the other day, it was last night actually, shared with me that So this person was calling some people about getting some money because they were a little bit behind on stuff.
Right.
And
Rent was due
rent was due and things like that.
in the middle of the month.
And this person came up to me and said later that, hey, you remember I was asking for money and stuff? Well, you know, God works in mysterious ways. That remember that time when I got in a car accident? Well, the insurance money finally paid out.
Oh, cool. Perfect.
And they were like, yeah, see, God works in mysterious ways. And I knew this was the one person, one of the many that wouldn't hear. That's not God.
Right.
Yeah, that's someone else is wanting you to continue to be lazy.
Yeah.
You know, God will provide, but not in that, not in the way you think.
Right.
That's happening.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. But yeah, all of these are they're action orientated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're seeking, we're accepting, we're doing. Some of it's a little mushy for me, like the whole today I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have to be happy.
No,
I
well,
don't think so. I don't think you have to be happy to be happy.
well, my favorite, one of the things I learned from early on was an older guy in the program would tell us, he said, you know, all y'all talking about wanting to be happy and happy this and happy that. He said, there's no such thing as happy. So you might as well accept that.
Right.
Just learn to be happy without it.
There you go. Be happy without it.
That's it. So that's what works the best.
All right.
Well, I think the first thing that caught me with him, I think he's talking about having hard times because he went through a lot of hard times himself. And I think David's telling him, you know, this is the worst time of his life. And Abraham Lincoln tells him, congratulations.
All right.
Congratulations are in order.
I agree with that. Some of the worst times of my life, so I thought at that moment,
Right.
ended up being the best day of my life.
Right. Well, it turns out is I'm not a good judge of what happens now. Because like you said, a lot of the stuff that I think is the worst thing that ever happened to me, or this could be horrible, or it is horrible, I'm not liking it, blah, blah, blah. Turns out to be that's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I wouldn't change it. I mean, if I could go back, I wouldn't change it. So,
well, looking back at this, you're absolutely right. We should talk about Abraham Lincoln's, the sixth decision.
mm-hmm.
And it's about, I will greet this day with a forgiving spirit.
Oh, forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
We talked about forgiveness last night.
We did talk about forgiveness last night. And I shared a little story about a person that was crying, really upset because this person knew that they had done wrong. And they were coming to me and asking me if I thought that person would ever forgive them. And I didn't respond the way this person wanted me to.
What?
They wanted me to say, absolutely, one day it will come because it's God's will, right? But that's not the truth. Because if you read the big book,
mm-hmm.
in order to be forgiven, you must learn to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So then I asked that person, well, I know you have another situation here where this person wronged you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever forgive that person? And that person lost their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Lost her. Why the hell would I forgive that person?
Right.
That's way different. You know, that person's just evil.
Yeah.
And I just smiled. I said, well, until you're able to forgive,
mm-hmm.
the chances of you being forgiven are little to none.
Right.
Just is.
Yeah.
Just is. So, yeah, the forgiving part, it's tough though, man. I mean, if you think about it, to forgive people that have really, really hurt you,
mm-hmm.
man.
Well, you brought up the big book. And, coming from that direction there, here's the thing, we've all been forgiven. If you believe in a higher power or, that sort of thing at all, you believe we've been forgiven.
Mhm.
Somebody's already paid the price. So what does that mean? That means since I've been forgiven, I have the capacity to forgive.
Right.
Right? And actually, it's a responsibility to forgive. A lot of us don't like it because it's the thing we hold it over people, that sort of thing. We think they owe us one or something, and so I'll forgive them whenever they can pay it, so to speak, or they've done their time.
Right.
And that's not our part. The part most people don't know about forgiveness is to truly forgive somebody or to be forgiven. It's a relationship. Now I need to keep up with that person. Not every day, not in all their business, but check back with them in a couple of weeks. Hey, you were going through some stuff. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Can I help? I may not even like you, but I have that responsibility now because of the forgiveness is a tie. It's a relationship. To help if I can. Don't mean I got to do business with them.
Right.
They ain't getting my checkbook, that kind of shit. But for their well-being, and they're nudging them along the path,
Right.
Not to just be, oh, I have forgiven you.
Right.
Whatever.
Well, I think that goes back to our original conversation about the little G's and the big G's.
Yeah.
Right? If God's already forgiven all of us, right, and our job is to do as our higher power does, then we're to continue to forgive. That's what we're supposed to do.
All right.
But it can be difficult if you grab a hold of the, I hear this excuse, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm only human, right? If you believe that, then yeah, you're going to stay right there because essentially you're not human.
Right.
You're a spirit having a human experience, right?
Spiritual being having a human experience.
So it all depends on how you look at things. I mean, you can stay where you're at and continue to go backwards and just be in the shadows and in the darkness of this world, or you can choose to be in the sunshine of the Spirit. Those are your choices.
Yeah.
You can choose to respond with love or respond with fear. And by continually forgiving, that's the sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
That's the freedom. Not fun at times. And, you said something that was interesting. It says you may not even like that person. I don't like most humans,
right? To
be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're supposed to like. We're supposed to just be of service.
Okay.
I don't understand the concept we have to like everybody. I can be of service genuinely, sincerely, with love.
Right.
And not like that person at all.
Okay.
The human part. Talking about the human.
Okay.
I don't have to.
Right. You can see the spirit in them.
I see the spirit. That's something
like
completely different.
Because
it's like, look at it this way. We're all connected by the spirit, right? My feet are connected to me. I don't like my feet, but I take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they stink and they're ugly.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't go around hitting them with hammers. I don't sit there and cuss at them.
Right.
I clean them. I take care of them. I put socks on them. Doesn't mean I have to like everybody.
Right.
Right? Now, there are other parts of my body I absolutely love.
Yeah. I understand. Parts that you're more fond of. You put little socks on it and
I just think
polish it.
I think our higher power,
extra lotion.
Yes, if you look at our body, everything is right where it's supposed to be. Because if you look at where our hands are, we're supposed to play with things with our hands.
With things you can reach.
And what's the closest to my hands? Let's see. It's not my feet. So, just something I thought I'd share.
Good.
It's all about perspective, Barry.
It's all about perspective.
All about perspective.
Speaking of.
Yes. What else you got?
I was just fucking with
Yeah, you better.
Perspective.
Mm-hmm. What about the final decision, that I will persist without exception?
Well, that's in some ways that's my favorite chapter. With Gabriel back there.
I knew you would like Gabriel.
Yeah, and the things that stand out to me in that are all the possibilities, and even the human beings, the things that could have been, should have been, but we decided to play God in that moment, and for whatever, it didn't happen. So it's kind of a slap in the face. That's hard to swallow. I mean, that's a tough one to read. I've got 3 kids. We had a 4th one on the way, but anyway, we lost it. And I don't know why it made me think of that. I mean, I guess because it was little kids that he was talking about in the little kid pictures. But
yeah.
But anyway, it was kind of a emotional thing to think about. There's actually a lot of kids or whatever that could have been, should have been, and never were. Right. Not to mention what they could have accomplished, right, and all of that. And so I think the decision to, not quit, no matter what. I mean, that's essentially the reason he published this book, because nobody wanted to do it.
Right.
So he ended up having to do it himself because of that little thing he wrote there.
There you go.
I will persist without stopping.
Well, there's a part here in that sentence, or in the decision, it says, I acknowledge that most people quit when exhaustion sets in.
Right.
And this is where I'm claiming this. I am not most people. I am stronger than most people. Average people accept exhaustion as a matter of course. I do not. Average people compare themselves with other people. This is why they are average. I compare myself to my potential. I am not average. I see exhaustion as a precursor to victory.
Right.
So going back to the name of our podcast with the little goats, if you look at all of the greatest of all times, all the athletes, the spiritual mentors, the political leaders, the world leaders, kings, princesses, all these amazing people that have moved the needle of being closer to where our higher power wants us to be at, right? All of those individuals that give us that drive, that desire to be better than where I'm at right now, right? That's what they're explaining right there, right? That's what they're explaining. So going back to what we're talking about, surrounding ourselves with those type of people, we have to look at when exhaustion's setting in with this person, what do they do? Oh, maybe another day, right? Or, no, get your ass up and let's get back to it. Those are the people we need to surround ourselves with, because it's the like-minded people that get us going. And the thing is if you're truly doing this program, this way of life, where you're tapped into the way of our higher power, the way of the spirit, exhaustion never sets in. Truly, it never does, right? You may get your ass kicked physically with your human body,
right,
but your spirit will never stop. And that's what makes those little goats all around this world amazing.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to be.
That's it. Well, that's the spiritual energy you're talking about, like your father Leo.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you're constantly complaining about being tired,
voice, man.
Do Father Leo's voice?
Yeah,
he does a better Father Leo's voice than I do.
All right.
Or are you talking about
go ahead,
Bill?
No.
Because that's how he
spoke. You were on it.
Anyway, so Father Leo says if you're doing the program and if you're always complaining about being tired,
right,
then you're not doing the program.
You're not doing it right.
You're not doing it right.
Yeah.
And I hear it all the time. I hear people, oh no, I don't know what it is. I can't wake up early. I can't do this. I can't do that. Man, I'm just always tired. Well, then you're not doing it right.
You're not doing it right.
You just aren't.
Grouch and the brainstorm are not for us.
There you go.
Dubious luxuries of other men.
Not for me. I was there once.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. And it's easy to get there these days with the damn, this news cycle we have that's so fast and all the focus on the negative. So
Absolutely.
why we don't watch the news?
Yeah.
Adult entertainment.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, raising my kids and my wife and other people would get upset with me when I would beat them playing PlayStation, or just like when they were playing basketball, I'd smack the shit out of the ball, Like, why? You're not building them up. I'm like, no, I'm teaching them real life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and coddle them.
Yeah.
But when they do finally get to shoot on me, I'm going to give them a high five. You know how much more the level of love and enjoyment of this world is when they actually are able to accomplish something without somebody coddling them? It's a whole other world,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, that's going to be an issue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But you're the dad that says, "Here, jump to daddy."
Yeah, and then let them go.
Pull your hands out of the way. Yeah.
Well, it goes to what you were talking about a while ago, where you said you were reading some science thing where people's taints are shrinking, right? My boys' taints are about this big.
Yeah.
Because I did that a lot. They come to daddy, and they jump, and I go, all right. Man.
I don't think it changes as you grow up. I
You don't think
you're
so?
pre-wired to whatever.
Oh, well, I may have it wrong then.
Yeah,
Pre-wired.
it's what our fathers and fathers were, I think.
Oh, yeah, then we're good then.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there. So,
All right. Well, that's all we got for today. Unless you got anything else. You got any burning desires?
No, that's all the fun I can stand at the moment.
All
Hey,
right.
y'all drop down in the comments y'all's favorite lesson from today.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know if you're a goat or a big goat or a Billy goat.
There you go.
There you go.
Woo!
There you go. All right. Thank y'all.